Yebo, linjani? Hayi thina siyaphila. We have been taught that Satan exists, that he is omnipresent, omniscient, omnibenevolent, at the same time that he is the cause of all evil, wars, war, disease and squalor. Every Abrahamic religion, Judaism, Christianity and Islam, claims to possess exclusive revelation about the origin of evil. They present Satan, Iblīs, Mephistopheles, or the devil, or Lucifer, as a figure whose existence was revealed to them through prophecy, through holy books, through the prophets, as well as from information that they had between their conversations with God, and perhaps at certain times He's chosen messengers. This is a total lie. Break the chains, perhaps you don't know, bind you to the consciousness of a spirit they have named Satan, the devil. Through religion, spirituality, or scientism, they promised you freedom, but deliver you to the overlords. But Satan is somewhere. Your potential wasn't lost. It was taken. Your success in this life and beyond is being hijacked. It's time to take it back. Reclaim your mind, unleash your potential, become your own master. How? Own a copy of the one manual that will change your situation. No more masters. It's now available on Amazon.com as well as on our site marifado.com. 2000 years before the first word of Genesis was scratched onto a parchment, before Yahweh, Elohim, Jesus, Allah, Africans in Hamid had written on the pyramid texts, the coffin texts, and the book of coming forth by day, the primordial origins of evil that had occurred billions and billions of years before. This proves beyond any reasonable doubt that Abrahamic traditions did not reveal the origin of Satan. They borrowed this. They took the concept they did not understand from a civilization that they would later denounce as pagan, strip it of its cosmological sophistication, and turned it into a cartoon villain for their endless pathetic rituals of demon casting. Let us be merciless and let us be clear. The Abrahamic religions have no revelation at all about the origin of evil, because they have no understanding of the waters of Nyunyu, the concept of self-generation, counterbalance between Maati and his fate. They are theological children playing with the toys they stole from a temple they burned down. If you don't understand the waters of Nyunyu, just like the Abrahamic theology drowns it, the Afro-cosmic creation narrative begins not with a speaking God hovering over waters, but with Nyunyu, the primordial waters of non-existence, the liquid abyss of all pre-creation. Nyunyu is not a god. Nyunyu is not a person. Nyunyu is the condition of absolute potential. All potential with all possibilities. Nyunyu is dark, innate, surrounding everything, containing within itself the possibilities of both order and chaos. From the pyramid texts of Yunus, we read, the king's mother was pregnant with him. Even he who was in the lower sky, the king, was fashioned by his father Atum before the sky existed, before earth existed, before men existed, before gods were born, before death existed. This is a cosmology. Before sky, before earth, before men, before gods, before death, there was Nyunyu. The Abrahamic religion and its God, who created the heavens and the earth, is a problem. He needed a place to stand. The Afro-Hamitic text explicitly state that Atema, the self-created deity or God or first principle, emerged from Nyunyu because there was no place whereupon he could stand. I found no place whereupon I could stand. I worked a charm upon my own heart, or a will. I laid the foundation of things by Maati, and I made everything which had form. The waters of Nyunyu is what quantum force field explain all potential with all possibilities. When you see this problem, especially the creation ex nihilo, the creation from nothing, the earth without form and void and darkness was over the face of the deep, Genesis 1:2. The deepty home is the same borrowing of Nyunyu. But the Hebrew writers, lacking their Afro-Kemetic cosmological framework, could not explain why the deep was there before God spoke. Was God not sovereign over the deep? Did the deep pre-exist God? The text is silent because the Hebrew writers stole the image but not the philosophy. Nyunyu is all potential with all possibilities, or a quantum force field. Each human being who comes on the earth must be cleansed of Isfet, not permanently separated from it. That's why everyone is good and evil inside them.
God forbade it. We would
because
die.
Without Isfet there is no Mahati. Without chaos there is no order. Without the lie there is no truth. Abrahamic religions, in their childish dualism, insist that good must annihilate evil, that God will eventually cast Satan into a lake of fire, end all evil, and establish eternal perfection. This is cosmological illiteracy. It is the desire of a toddler who wants to eat only candy and never vegetables. The Afro-Kemetic texts understand that you cannot have light without darkness, order without chaos, truth without the lie. They are not opposites to be resolved. They are partners in the dance and the cycles of existence. This is the truth that we all need to understand. So let's look at Ububi, Apep, Apophis. Apep is the true Satan, and his pre-creational existence is the source of all evil, not only external but also internal inside us. We have arrived at the figure that the Abrahamic religion stole, mutilated, and renamed Satan. Apophis or Apep or Ububi is the great serpent, the embodiment of his fate, the enemy of the god Ra. But unlike the Abrahamic devil, Apep is not a fallen angel. He is not a created being who rebelled. He is pre-creational. You can also say she is pre-creational. Apophis and Isfetic force existed in the waters of Nyunyu. In the story concerning Atema, Apophis is always existing and swims in the dark waters of undifferentiated chaos before Ben stored the primordial mount that rose up. So meta, we are speaking of meta now. So Benyu means alive. That's why our ancestors were animistic. They knew that everything is a vibrational frequency. Everything has got life. So once creation began, Apep or Apophis was angered, but he rose with Isfet at the same time with Maat to balance everything. Apophis became the enemy of the gods because the first sign of anything other than him brings about divine order, light, life. And if he could swallow it and destroy it, he could return the world back to the unity of darkness, primordial state. So Apep is not evil because he is bad. Apep or Apep is evil because he represents the pre-creational unity that precedes duality. When we go to the book of Coming Forth by Day, chapter 175, we find devastating dialogue between Ausari, our righteous ancestor, representing our righteous ancestor, and Atema, the original primordial deity that created almost everything that we can know out of the waters of Nyunyu. Atema says this to Ausari: you will live more than millions of years, an era of millions. But in the end, I, that's Atema, will destroy everything that I have created. The earth will become again part of the primordial ocean, like the abyss of waters in their original state. Then I will be what will remain, just I and Ausari. When I will have changed myself back into the old serpent, who knew no man and saw no God. So there is something that we must do in this life to transcend being man, transcend being outside, transcend being a God. Something that we must do in this life. Not believe in Satan. So you must become an outside, a righteous ancestor to escape entropy and escape a return to you. You don't have to believe in Jesus or believe in Allah or Muhammad. You have to understand that Atema will become the old serpent. The creator will return to chaos. Order will dissolve back into you. This is not defeat. This is a cycle. So we are in a cycle now, which we must escape. The Abrahamic promise of eternal static perfection is revealed as a denial of reality, as a fallacy. Because one to destroy one has to create. So we are here to destroy what we are and to become what we should, to escape a return to you. We don't have to believe in all these deities and these gods. Let us trace the theft of the Abrahamic belief and do a forensic precision here. The Hebrew Bible opens with the verse, the earth was without form and a void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, which is Tihom, which this Tohu Wabohu, what caused that destruction? The Bible doesn't tell you. But there was no Tohu and Bahom, there was no became, it was always as. It is the primordial waters of you that they borrowed. Tihom they also borrowed as Tiamat. Tiamate. In other words, spit out, shoot out spittle in Nguni language. In other words, that's what happened to spit out everything into existence. Our ancestors knew that. The primordial waters. So the Hebrew writers during and after their Babylonian exile absorbed the concept but stripped them off of their philosophical depth. So Yuyu, which is pre-creational waters, is not evil. It's just all potential with all possibilities. Atema is a self-generated from Yuyu, not created by command. Apep or Apep, pre-exist creation, represents return to undifferentiated chaos. Ma'ati's fate are the eternal counterbalances, neither fully conquerable. But in Abrahamic cosmology, the deep is unexplained, pre-existing water that God somehow doesn't fully control. God speaks creation into existence, no self-generation, no emergency. Satan, a created being who fell, no pre-creation existence, no cosmic necessity. Good and evil, moral absolutes, destined for final separation, no cyclical balance. So it's all confusion. It's all confusion. So the Abrahamic system is a degenerate copy of our ancestral belief systems that our Afro-cosmic sages knew. They had the imagery of the serpent, the waters, the struggle between light and darkness, and replaced the sophisticated cosmology with a moralistic fairy tale. That's what the Abrahamic system did to degenerate all that. Satan is not Apep, the pre-creational force of undifferentiation. He is a fallen angel, a created being whose rebellion means he was insubordinate to a god in every way. That's what they teach. This is theologically pathetic. Apep is not subordinate to Ra. Apep pre-exists Ra. Apep is in the waters of Union itself, the primordial conditions that Ra emerged from and will eventually return to. The Abrahamic Satan is a petulant child compared to the cosmic terror of Apep. They also plagiarized the Enuma Elish. They also plagiarized another deity, Shata or Sita or Set. The evil god who saves the sun is Set. If Abrahamic theologians had any honesty, they would admit that their Satan is a crude composite of Apep, Apep or Apophis, the pre-creational serpent, and Shata or Set or Sita, the god of chaos, storms, and the desert. But they cannot admit this because Shata destroys their entire moral framework. Because Shata or Set is not evil or total evil. Shata is a necessary chaos. Shata is necessary chaos. He is the force that made Osiris, but he is also the god who defends Ra from Apophypa every single night. This Afro deity, Set, Shata, or Sita, was borrowed, then changed into the common god Satan in the Bible, Iblīs in the Quran. Shata is the anti-hero who does the death work. He is violence when violence is needed. He is chaos that prevents total annihilation. The Abrahamic mind, terrified of ambiguity, cannot handle a God who is both a murderer and a savior, both disruptor and protector. So they split him into two. Satan gets the chaos, God gets the order, and the profound ancient Afro-Kamitic insight of the truth that these forces are intertwined is lost. Then you find, when you read the Quran, when you read the Torah, when you read the Bible, you find God commanding destruction of other people, and then you find God being called love, and then there's a total confusion. What's going on? So the primordial field is pre-existence. That's waters of union, all potential and all possibilities, which is the quantum force field, undifferentiated, beyond infinity, beyond any potential. The principle of operational entropy there is his fate, balanced by Mahati, the auto-generated good and the auto-generated evil, the spontaneous lies, the destructive void anti-realities, Apep or Apophis or Ububi, the sentient will toward annihilation. Then we've got the Sebao, the kinetic agents of disruption, which you think you might call demons today. The mechanics of dissolution and consequence. Then we've got Amity, the final arbiter into non-existence, a void or a vortex, devourer. Then you got Ububi, the raw violence of unchecked force. Then Petasokas, the sudden rupture of physical continuity, death. Then you got Shata, Set, and Isita, the functional conflict, the storm within the system, which they have called Satan. Then you have got Nebugai, which is the boundary of the mortal and the eternal, where you find the snake with legs. The serpent in the garden now comes there because it was walking. And then you've got Akuk, which is the discord of the unmapped wilderness, the animals, the spirits, and so forth. So you have to understand that we began this talk with Nyunyu, the primordial waters, and we always end with Nyunyu, the waters that receives all things back. The Abrahamic religions claim revelation about Satan, about evil, about the origin of darkness, but they have no revelation. They have plagiarism. They took Nyunyu and changed it to Tihom, the deep, Apep, and they called him Satan, but made him a fallen angel instead of a pre-creational force. Maati and Isfet, they called it good and evil, and put some two trees there, and they made war instead of balance to be maintained. And then they took Set or Shita or Shata and called him Satan the devil, Mephistopheles, or the adversary. Now, Atum, self-generated Atema, and they replaced that Atum with their God, who simply is, because they could not handle divine autonomy. They don't know anything about that. When we go to the coffin texts, and 714, Atema speaks across 4 millennia. I am one who made myself, and I formed myself at my will, according to my desire. That's Atum, Atema. This is the voice of a tradition that understood divine autonomy, cosmic necessity, and the eternal dance of order and chaos. It is a voice that Abrahamic traditions had copied badly and they then claimed as their own exclusive revelation. They did not reveal Satan. They borrowed him from the waters of Nyunyu and they lost the receipt, and the waters are closing in. So, the sophistication of our cosmology versus the degeneration that is a degenerate copy of Abrahamic fiction must make you remember that Satan is a fiction. The real problem is that there is a serpent that predates Satan, whose influence is still in each of us, whether you've got Jesus, whether you've got for Muhammad, or whether you go anywhere. And that influence may eventually lead you into entropy, cessation of you, a fate far worse than death and hell. If you put your life in Abrahamic religions, you are making a huge risky gamble. To be guaranteed, however, of the best outcome towards the afterlife, into ancestorhood and divinity, and to make the best choices today, so that you are not deliberately led to a false paradise through Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, or fear of hell, or rather any other worse forms of punishment in the underworld, which you might fall into, and eventually complete total annihilation, often referred to as the second death or non-existence. Today you have heard some message, some warning, something that must catapult you to do more research and to be eternally safe. We can help you if you wish to do more research on this. Do not hesitate to send us an email on the email that we are showing here. And we also insist that you can own a copy of one of our recommended books, Normal Masters, and delve into it. There are chapters there that will perturb you and cause you to think a little bit deeper and differently from what you have seen, from what you have thought before. I'm your manager, Tropi Priest Rabbi, LM to Music Kunikenim Jaganja, a member of Marifat Family Network, saying till we meet again. Remember, there is a second death and a total non-existence of your frequency that you are dabbling with today. Till we meet again, consider this as serious as possible. And thank you for watching, for liking, for subscribing and commenting. Share this video with your friends. Share this video to as many people as possible. Thank you. Amen. Let's meet again later.